I think the thing I appreciate the most in life is honesty. So I don't care who you are, I don't care what you do, I don't care what you did, what you don't do. What I love the most about people is honesty. And I'm not talking about a confessional honesty, I'm talking about you're honest about who you are and your experiences. And when I find that, and I found that a lot of women in the, it's not systematic, but it seems like, I'll take that back. I found that these women were very honest with me. And I really appreciated it and I enjoyed it. And at the time I was very curious about it, so I would ask lots of questions. At times I went with them in their workplace, so to speak. I was fascinated by it also. It was such an unknown world for me at the time, full of taboo and judgment. And also when I went there, I found myself, ironically. I discovered parts of myself that have always been there, that I felt bad about, that I felt were evil, that I was conditioned to feel guilty about. Except that the mirror that this world is dirty. So the sex industry is it's an industry. It can get fucked up and very perverted. I didn't go into that twisted. There's really nasty stuff. I didn't go there. But for what it's worth, it's a mirror. It's a dirty mirror, but it reflected something back to me, and I couldn't neglect it. It's a part of myself, and I wanted that part of myself back. I wanted not to feel guilty or ashamed of who and what I am. I didn't know what I was, and I didn't have any example. And everything about man's sexuality is demonized, turned into something dirty. If you're polygamous, you're this. If you're this, if you're monogamous, you're a beta male, cocksucker. Everything. If you got multiple women, you're a pimp or you're whatever. All these, everything is your everything about sexuality. But I'm talking about men now is twisted. So I believe that everybody wants to be a good person fundamentally and wants to be part of the whole, but the whole, every passing generations become more and more anal and more restricted and rejects more and more aspects of itself. So some people can easily adapt to this. Others, such as myself and many others, cannot. And I found that in the world of sexuality, or the sexual, what do we call it? Sex industry? I don't like that expression. I recognize parts of myself. And I love those parts of myself, and I wanted to reclaim those parts of myself. And the world outside, and the women, the normal women in university and church, even though I don't go to church, but I'm surrounded with people who go to church. All those proper spiritual centers and ashrams, they just systematically reject that. So because I'm hanging out with all this that reject that, I have to reject myself. And I want to understand myself. I want to understand, who am I? Why am I the way I am? Why do I think the way I think? Why do I feel the way I feel? And your average surface world just wants nothing to do with that. And when I would go there, albeit it's totally out of balance and extreme and it's dirty, let's be honest, it's fucking filthy. But it's not more filthy than somewhere else. That's the catch. When I go, I used to hang out with my buddy. At some point, this was my childhood friend. He got married, and he'd sometimes invite me at his house. This is before I stopped going. I fucking hated going. It's so disgusting. I'd go there. It's like entering into a spider web of fucking doom. It was disgusting, and the house had a little smell to it, which is stagnancy. The energy is stagnant. It's disgusting. So it's not more disgusting than another world. It's a certain kind of disgusting. Let's be honest, okay? I agree. But I wanted to discover myself in relation to this and what was beyond the veil of what's perceivable. And in the world of sexuality, or the sex industry, if we can call it like this, there's a truth that is expressed. And that's what I loved about these women, because they get to know humanity, especially man, in his most transparent side. Everyday people, they act, look at Justin Trudeau, look at this fucking dude. Like, look at this dude. Like, imagine, do you think this guy believes 1 second what the fuck he's saying? This is an actor. He's a professional actor. I caught a video of him when he was young with long hair, and he's an actor. Not long hair, just a little more volume. And he's a young politician, and he's saying exactly the right sentences to have, you know exactly who's the demographic he's speaking to. It's an actor. So who's that person really? You and me will never know. His wife will most likely only know this much about who he really is. He's got a whole other life, a secret life, where he doesn't have to pretend to be all this bullshit that he pretends, and all that repressed sexual energy. Now, I don't want to talk about Justin Trudeau. I don't give a fuck about him. I'm saying any person, everybody, your average person pretends to be something. In his case, it's an extreme pretension, so the repression is immense. And the people in the sexual industry get to meet men, the result of social conditioning, the result of our modern world, and when they remove the facade. So there's a lot of tension. That tension has to blow steam, and at some point it blows steam, and all there is left is an actual person who's broken, wounded, and insecure. That's the reality. And they get to see that side of humanity, of manhood, which is the truth. That's a fucking priestess. That's a fucking real person. I'm not talking about all of them, because some of them are just dirty junkies. No disrespect. But that's a person, that's a real therapist. She doesn't know how to solve your problem, but she gives you a place where you can present yourself transparently. I'm broken. And for that little moment, you can exhale. You don't have to pretend. Now, I find that the most powerful therapeutic method ever. Now, they're not trained. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to solve problems just because they don't generally understand the problem, because the problem scope is immense. But the fact that men can go there and exhale, not all the time, some men, a lot of men, more than you'd be surprised. They always say the same thing. They end up talking to me and telling me their secrets. Back in the days, when an army wanted to invade another country, they sent a prostitute, because the prostitute would go to the king or to the duke or whoever's in charge, and that fucking idiot would confess all his secrets. Why? So anyways, not to go too far into that. So I really appreciated these women, because there's that transparency. And also in their behavior with me, there's a form of shamelessness. It can be exaggerated and it can be weaponized, but there's also, I'm a slut. What am I gonna hide from you now? I'm gonna pretend I'm not a slut? Because all the women are pretending they're not suckers. Let's be fucking straight. They all have a hustle, and they're all trying to screw you over. That one's she's like, this is what I am. And I fucking appreciate that. I really do, because now we know what what time it is. We know what's happening. So there's a form of honesty at that level that is you cannot find in other places. And I'm like, something special about that. And that thing, although it's in the wrong place and it's twisted and it's perverted and it's weaponized and there's something sacred about it, it's just degraded. And I want that. It's in me. It's part of me. It's part of how things should be. It's part of healing. It's the essence of healing, and it's nowhere to be found. God forbid that a person speaks of the word healing and associates the word sex with it. That's a pervert. Of course, I'm a pervert. Of course. That's all the worst things. That's an abuse. That's like, because healing, of course, has nothing to do with sex. Anyways, so that's what I would appreciate. I really reclaimed parts of myself in my journeys with these people, these women. And it's not just like superficial stuff. I'm talking about deep, energetic archetypes, if we can call it like that. And I wanted those parts of myself. They're mine. I want to have access to them. I don't want to live. I don't want to live broken. I don't want to have a shadow where these things operate at night. And I want to be a whole person. And I don't want to live in shame because society doesn't understand those energies, because people judge those energies. And I also do not want to be a prostitute and live in that realm either, because who wants to fucking live there? It's disgusting. Yeah. Also, when I was a little younger, I was a little dumb. I had this, I don't know, I had to learn, right? But I didn't understand that energy, and I was fascinated by it, and I thought that these women were like victims until I realized they were not victims at all. So part of me wanted to save that victim and wanted to be that dude. That's when I was younger, but it was really there. I have to admit. Then when I learned more about it, I'm like, there's no victim, no, there's no such thing. They're there for multiple reasons, and I don't need to save you, nor do I want to. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing. You haven't like betrayed your femininity by being a whore and let go of the city. It's like Judeo-Christian bullshit. You betrayed yourself by having sex with multiple men because you're a precious, pure woman, virgin. Now you're a slut. No, this is all rubbish also. So that Judeo-Christian conditioning also that was in me, nicely fucking tucked in my mind, was shattered, and I learned and discovered a deeper reality, which I'm very grateful for. I don't know what to say. It's what I am also. I am also that. My outside life in this life didn't express, at least didn't express that it wasn't in a position of a pimp, and I didn't do any of that, but it's my nature. But nobody knows what a pimp is besides the pimp and the prostitutes. And a pimp is just an archetypal energy also. This is just expressed in a certain context due to certain social circumstances. So it looks like that, but that same pattern of energy can be expressed in different contexts and circumstances completely different. And I understood that pattern, although immediately people point at the pimp is horrible, the pimp is this, the pimp is... I'm like, no, this is again, worldly people at the surface who judge it because they're scared shitless of it. And the woman needs to be a victim, and it's always the same story, and the pimp imposed and forced her. I'm like, well, no. I'm not saying that there's not cases where women are enslaved and forced to prostitution. I don't want to get into this fucking bullshit. I'm just saying that's not how it works. That's just not how it is. And I discovered that within those energies, there's a higher potential, there's a greater potential. And that potential, that format of energy, the energies create geometry forms. And that particular dynamic of so-called prostitutes and pimp, if you remove the titles, it's a form of geometry. It creates a form of a wheel. And that same wheel could be used to channel or express generative energy in a completely different way. But it's the same pattern. It has a very powerful effect. Anyways, I was curious. I was interested because deep down inside myself, I recognize myself in both the prostitute and in the so-called pimp. And I didn't want to run away from this, nor feel guilt or shame or judgment. And I couldn't help myself. I was attracted to it. For so many ways, for so many reasons I was attracted to it. Yet I will be 100% honest with you. I have never, ever, ever in my whole life used a sexual service. Not even a lap dance. And I've been to strip joints many times. Because I don't pay for that. That's just my style. No. Because I'm not a client. I run the shit, or I'm your friend on the side, or whatever you want, but I'm not I'm not participating in this debacle. I don't do that. These are simps. These are guys that understand they got to do what they got to do, but I'm not in that position. Yeah, also, I have to be honest, I really love these women. I have to be honest with you. But in a particular kind of way, because I find that what they have is a special gift, and it's so needed and so necessary. And I find it unfortunate that their divine gift has been reduced or has been made so shallow. I think these are the greatest, these are the most important women. That's what I think. The world needs these women in their actual power more than ever, because the world is so sexually sick and insane, and these are the priestesses that help you heal sexuality. There are priests involved there, and we're not talking about priests with a collar. And I'm in the business of health and healing, if we can call it like this. I'm in the business of health and healing. And I think that these are the most powerful weapons at our disposal, except they have been perverted, weaponized, and the women have become confused and they celebrate their sluttery, not understanding what its essence really is and what divine responsibility comes with that power. And then they just strut like fucking idiots. And I find it demeaning and disrespectful. Whatever, but if we remove this Cardi B-ness of things, yeah, I firmly feel and believe that these women with the associated men are the most powerful agents in the world of healing, and they're more necessary now than they've ever been. Because their job is to fix sexuality. And sexuality is the foundation of the human experience, so they help you heal your human experience. Your human... Yeah. What's more powerful than that? Besides God himself showing up to you and saying, hey. And that obliterates everything. But I'm talking about from a human perspective. There's nothing more powerful than that. There's nothing more needed than that. Look at the world we live in. Look at the world we live in. Look at the madness. Look at the insanity. All of that is due to repressed sexual energy. Nothing more. And we've discussed how sexual energy has been repressed and conditioned over thousands of years due to psychological aberrations and whatnot, deeply entrenched in the minds of people. Fine, but all of this is a squeezed generative power. So, if you can unlock that energy, first you can bring humanity to a greater sense of harmony and peace. And what could be birthed from this place, who knows, but clearly it could be much better than this. Because can it get worse than this? Yes, it can, and it's coming your way, bro. So hang on tight. A couple of years left. We're at 2 years out of 8. Just hold on tight. But let's not take that tangent. Yeah, so that's my humble opinion. So I guess the reason I have had an attraction to it is because, in a way, it's who I am. But my circumstances didn't require me to go so far, let's say, out of alignment. Maybe because I had guidance. Not maybe, because I've had guidance, but everything has to be in its right place. And in nature and in Dharma, there's a room for everything. But it has to be its pure version. Pure in the sense that it's in integrity, it's aligned, it's respected, it's part of the entire grid, so it's nourished, and its function is respected because it's a power, and without that power, the whole has a problem. And when you see the world around us, I don't know. Look at it. Look around. What are people celebrating? People are celebrating facades. Like, again, I'm going to use Justin Trudeau as an example. I don't have a specific thing with him. Because before I came here, I saw a video with him, so that's why he's fresh in my mind. I'm like, how can anybody buy this? How can a woman, the knower of reality, buy that bullshit? She must be confused as fuck to buy into this bullshit. This is so bad acting. His acting is so bad. It's like not even worth a B movie. It's like so bad, the acting. He's not even like a little good as an actor. Obama was an A+ actor. He's like Hollywood shit. This motherfucker is like a B-. I'm being generous because he's the prime minister. Like, it's so bad. How does anybody buy into that? This is the world we live in. How do you buy into this? You can only buy into this if you're so severed from your inner knowing. And the inner knowing comes from the base. So people buy into it because if there's trigger words, and that's all he does. That's what Justin does. He's a specialist. Every sentence he says is constructed. It's constructed. You can tell if you listen to him, you can see the code of the research, the choice of words, the demographics to who he's speaking about, how much percentage are there. Everything is perfectly scripted in his mind. You can tell. It's so obvious to see. And how do people buy that? Well, because they don't have a link with raw energy. They don't have access to it anymore. So this is the world we live in. Our whole world is suffocating. There's no fucking air. You can't breathe. You can't speak the truth. You can't do fuck all that's honest. You can't explore anything. You're just stuck and stuck and more stuck and more stuck. And every day it's more stuck. And you're so stuck that the only place you're going to have to get to have fresh air is in a metaverse, which is another fucking bullshit universe. Oh my God. This is the world we live in. And unless you stop for 2 seconds and look around and ask yourself, well, what the fuck is going on? And what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm pointing to you. I'm pointing at the source, if you'd like to say. There's a disconnection. That's the source. And then we have a sexual trauma that comes into play. But it's like, well, that's it. The point is, in my opinion, humanity is in a dire need of healing. Women are in a very particular condition. Men are in a particular condition. And men, this is our channel, so I'm talking to you. If you don't understand what I'm saying, well, you're on the wrong channel or you're fucking confused. So, and if you as a man don't understand that potential that lives in her, then you're only looking at her as a thing on which you can come and get a moment of repose, if you could call it like that. And you don't see what your relationship if you develop your relationship with yourself, you don't see what it is that you can bring to her and what she'll bring to the world around after. But this may sound a little mysterious for now, but somehow you kind of know. And imagine if that womb power could be, dare I say, organized or structured, not necessarily with your intellect mind, but there was an organicness connection, that space that it could create. Anyways, I've noticed that a lot of women in the sexual industry find themselves there. I mentioned this before, because they don't know where to go to learn what it is that they're trying to learn, but they don't know that they're trying to learn it. So they find themselves there because it's the only kind of world that resonates with them or appeals to them. There's conditioning and then there's the blah blah and the junk. But some, not all of them, but some are looking to develop that skill set, but that world doesn't exist anymore, the school where you learn. So that's the only place where they can technically use their sexual energy in practice. They're practicing upside down and they're weaponizing their sexual energy, but it's obvious. It's not like people in corporations who pretend they don't have sexual energy and they vampirize everyone. So a lot of them I found are learning the best way they can because they don't know where to go and where to put themselves. These are I don't want to say lost arts because they're not lost, but in a way they're lost. And it's very powerful.